if it's somebody who's over in the light and they want to come down, they're actually going to visit you in the shower, because when you're around water, water and spirit are connected.
Right.
And so when you're doing, so here's a story. I have a family member who didn't get along with another family member, and that family member died. And that family member now argues with the family member who died while they're doing dishes. And so this family member thinks that it's just like a conversation in their head about all the things the dead family member would say, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like all the things the dead family member would say, they're just having this conversation in their head with them. I asked them recently how those conversations when they're doing dishes are going. They're like, I think he's coming around.
Generation X Paranormal.
Well, hey everybody, welcome back.
Hey everyone.
So we are Generation X Paranormal. I'm Logan.
And I'm Nicole.
And I have to admit, I am not too happy today.
Why?
Well, some of you folks may or may not know, but my birthday is in July. See, I don't even know what month my birthday is in. My birthday is in July, so I just had a birthday, and I don't know when this is going to air, but just know my birthday is in July. And I reached a very specific age this year.
That's
and
what we're talking about. Yeah. Okay.
And I think for the most part, I'm okay with it until today. Today came a very nicely put together envelope.
What you're talking about.
And I opened it up. And son of a bitch, it says, welcome to 50, and it's an AARP membership.
Yes, it did.
Guys,
he was not happy.
I am that if you're at this age,
but no, wait, you get a free tote bag.
Give a shit if I get a free tote bag or not. It is a very sobering feeling when you see this. So I'm just letting you guys know, if you haven't reached that ripe old age of 50, just wait. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll kick you when you're down. Anyway, so we have a good show today. I just wanted to let you guys know. And we're going to speak with Kim Beam. And Kim Beam is, well, she is super, super interesting. But what can you tell us about her?
So Kim is a certified intuition coach and teacher, a qualified mindfulness instructor through UMass Medical School, Reiki master, app creator, published author with a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from Goddard College, licensed clinical social worker with a master's in social work from Westchester University, public speaker, healer, certified tarot card reader, qualified breathwork instructor, meditator, manifester, channeler, cancer survivor, and wild fit alum.
Nice. I like it. Well, let's get with Kim. She's probably waiting, and we're excited to talk to her.
Yeah, let's talk to her.
Well, hey Kim, how you doing?
Logan and Nicole, are you guys doing okay?
We're doing good. Doing good.
Welcome to Generation X Paranormal. We're happy to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, we've had a few different guests on when it comes to, I guess for lack of better words, kind of psychic development, psychic things. And I think the one thing we've never really covered, and it's something that I know we're certainly interested in, and I know Nicole's interested in, but we're going to, hopefully you're going to square us away with a little bit of Reiki and kind of what that means. But before we get started, if you can kind of give our audience sort of a, hey, this is Kim, this is what's brought me here, and kind of where you're at.
So my name is Kim Beam. Moonbeam, sunbeam, laser beam, Jim Beam, Kim Beam, but I don't drink. So, and I'm actually an intuitive. So I read energy, I pay attention to energy, and I kind of like use people's energy to find out what's going on, whether it's empathy, which I always say is dipping your toe in the intuitive waters, or if you go full on swimming where you like read their mail completely, right? So I'm an intuitive reader. I'm also an intuitive coach, so I help people learn how to trust their intuition. I help people figure out like what's left brain, what's ego, what's subconscious trying to keep you safe, and then what is intuition trying to tell you.
Okay.
And how do you like navigate those totally murky, muddy waters?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the main thing. I have a course coming out about how to create transformational abundance in your life in September 1st. So it's like what is it? First week is like basically defining abundance for you. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what does that word mean for you personally? For most people, it tends to be materialistic things. Like, I'd really love a new house, I'd love a new car. But for other people, it's just, I really want to feel good. I'm tired of being depressed. I'm tired of being sad. I'm tired of being, and then we go through all the things that a person has to do. They're relatively easy to shift mindset, to look around and say, what is good? And can I celebrate what's good? And then how do you grow what's good? So I do a lot of that kind of stuff. Like, how do you grow what's good? And then how do you find where fear is rooted? And then how do you clean it out? And I do it in meditation. So I'll lead meditation to clean out in a way that's like really not very painful at all.
That's great. That's much needed in today's world, in society. It's like a daily struggle, I think, for most people.
I think everybody could use a pretty good cleansing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, geez.
And I don't mean the enema sense, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no, I kind of do too at some point, but I mean, at the time of recording right now, this will obviously we talked, it'll be a little bit later, but yeah, I think there's a lot of enema needed in that right about now. But anyway,
well, on
stories for
Tuesday
another
I'm
time.
having my gallbladder out, so that's also exciting, right? That's going on in the world.
I've actually done that one. Yeah, I've had that one done. So good luck to you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So kind of moving beyond that, I don't know why it came to mind, but
I brought you there. I was a middle
you brought
school,
me there.
I
I'm
was
okay
a middle
with it
school
though.
English teacher for 6 years and a high school
Nice.
English teacher for 6 years. I'm gonna go trash and dirty every time because
Take us there. We're okay with it.
Yep.
Yeah. We're not always so squeaky clean ourselves. That's for sure.
No, we
yeah.
Yeah. So you said you're are you a retired teacher or what do you?
I taught for 12 years and I got okay. So this is the story of the first book, which is What Doctors Don't Tell You: One Woman's Journey Through Hodgkin's Lymphoma. It's on Amazon. I found the lymph node on April 1st. So April Fool's Day of 2010, I found the lymph node. I was playing in my collarbone and was like, oh, look, a lymph node. And then my best friend was like, you're going to the doctor tomorrow. So April 2nd, I showed up at the doctor. A week later, a CT scan came back, blah, 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 lots more testing, needles. You don't want to know all the details. They're in the book. And then in the end, about a month and a half later, middle of May of 2010, diagnosed with Hodgkin's. June 1st was first dose. And so after I basically stared death in the face and was hospitalized for 9 days and all these things happened, my body rejected the board. It was just a really fun ordeal.
Yeah.
By the time I got done and got back to teaching, I was working with students who honestly didn't care about their life and didn't care what happened and didn't care where they wound up.
That's
And
sad.
I was like living in waiting rooms with people who were desperate to live. And then I came back to teaching with teenagers who just didn't care.
Yeah.
And I couldn't live. And at one point, years before, I went into one of my principals and I was like, he was sitting at like the front desk in the main office and I was like at my wit's end with behavior. And I walked in and I looked at him and I was like, have you seen my class lists? Do you know what you're doing to me?
Oh man.
And he looked at me and said, I know exactly what I'm doing to you. He said, when they're with you, they're in class and we know where they are. And when they're not with you, we don't know where they are. And they're like wandering around the buildings and we can't find them. So it's the one period of a day that we can find them. So yeah, we know what we're doing to you. And I
Thanks.
said, you are burning me out.
A blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, my father was an educator too, so that's why I was just curious about that. But that's pretty
so
wild.
I left teaching to go into a more lucrative position in social work.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I understand.
Yes.
Now I'm looking for more lucrative in some ways, but I'm actually looking for bigger impact. I
Sure.
don't,
Yeah.
I mean, of course there's money and of course we're thinking about it and of course those things are on the table. But at the same point, I'm thinking about like, how do I reach people in a way where I take the cult following I had in a small high school with like 1,200 students, and I make that cult following where people are like, oh no, she really gets where I am and she gets my struggle. And I'm able to give them things that actually count. Whereas in an English classroom, I have to waterboard you with curriculum.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. Of
Yeah.
course. So on that, okay, so I'm trying to figure out how to frame this.
You can frame it however you like. I will answer.
Now you're nervous because
The
she was
scary
an
thing is
English
I
teacher.
will answer however you frame it.
It's like, oh shit, she called me out. No. I guess when did you start to realize you kind of had this other capability that kind of, if you can kind of walk us a little bit through how you went from education, and I know having my father been an educator that it's, there's a lot involved with that, and it's not you don't have they're not mutually exclusive. But
Right.
where did you kind of start down that different path and know that maybe that wasn't exactly what you wanted to do anymore?
So when I was little, I wanted to be a teacher and a writer. Those were my two goals. Like that's where I wanted to be.
Right.
And hold on a second. I lost you there for a second. Here we go. I wanted to be a teacher and I wanted to be a writer. And then I thought it was going to be like Anne of Green Gables, but I didn't even think like she had that terrible year where they just like harassed and bullied her as a teacher, right? Like Anne didn't even have it good. And so I was like, I wanted to live like this really quaint little life on a coast of Massachusetts. And I was living in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and I taught in Gloucester Middle School, or I taught in Stoneham, and I was living in Manchester by the Sea, and I like thought I was having this quiet little life, and then things happened, and I moved to Maryland, and I was having another quiet little life on the Chesapeake Bay, and living in a house that was in the woods, and it was like great, but I realized at some point my intuition kind of woke me up with the finding of the lump, but also like. I left teaching for a year. That's how I found that gap year from Massachusetts to Maryland. I like threw it all in and said, this absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
I'm walking around with bags of papers to grade all the time. I've got like this albatross of expectations on me. I don't necessarily follow the whims of my administration. And I don't necessarily appreciate the way my administration handles really big problems. Right? I don't really appreciate the way that they're allowing certain things to happen and they're not allowing other things to happen. And I saw it over and over again, but I also saw that like bureaucracy is bureaucracy, right? Like I think we're even seeing that now. Like bureaucracy is like once you get something in place, it just takes a mind of its own. Even if it's not working, it just has a mind of its own because these are policies that are in place. And so I just got sick of the policies.
Right.
And I got sick of the bureaucracy. And what I imagined as being a quiet little life wasn't actually fulfilling me anymore. And so I listened to my intuition, and my intuition was like, you're not alive here. Like you're drowning and you're not like fulfilling any of the life goals you have. Like I wanted to be a writer, and I was too drained during the summers to actually write because what came out during the school year was so exhausting that I literally like would sometimes just sit and stare at a wall to like recover from the school year. And so it all just came down to like what makes me happy.
Sure.
Right.
And
Yeah, and I was going to say I think that I wanted to kind of pause for just a second that how much tremendous amount of strength that's got to be, because it's very difficult, especially I just turned the ripe age of 50 this last month. And I find that the thought of that is absolutely petrifying. So, it's amazing. And I just wanted to acknowledge that for just a second. So,
yeah, I mean, there was definitely a moment and I was like, well, how am I going to pay for medical insurance? And because if I like leave teaching, I'm losing medical insurance. And that was the big thing. Like everybody was like, Kim, are you staying? Because I think they wanted to make me lead teacher.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, I think they wanted to make me lead. And I was like, one, I don't know that I want that responsibility of being lead, but two, I get less classes if you make me lead. Like, there might be a bonus to being lead. They kept coming to me because I would, like, show up in the principal's office and be like, who's going to be lead? And the principal would look at me and be like, I'm not even thinking about that. And I'm like, you may not be thinking about that, but that is the scuttlebutt going on in my department. And it's becoming cutthroat up there. So if you could figure it out, that would be great. And he would be like, oh. And so then I would also come down and be like, can you please pay attention to this thing that's happening? And they would be like, we didn't even know that thing was happening.
Yeah.
And so they would turn to me and so they kept coming to me and saying, Kim, are you coming back next year? Kim, are you coming back next year? And I'm like, I'm working on a plan. I don't know.
Right.
And that plan was, what am I doing for medical insurance? If I leave and go back to graduate school and, get a 4.0 in a master's in social work, which I did, right? Like, and also probably offend a few professors by saying, I don't understand your pedagogy, right? I'm sure they loved when I said that. And then they said in response, I don't know what pedagogy is. And I said, it's your thinking, it's your philosophy on education. But before I gave the definition, I was like, well, maybe that explains why I don't understand it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That is funny.
I offended a ton of them because as an educator, I wasn't putting up with bad education. Like, I'm paying for this graduate degree and I'm not 20 anymore. At that point, I was like 37, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm 47 and I'm just not paying for bad education.
No. Yeah, school's very different at different ages.
Yeah, it sure is.
For sure.
And so I'm sure they looked at me and like, she's really annoying. I'm like, I'm sorry I'm annoying. It just means I know too much and I'm not scared of your PhD, right? I'm not scared of your PhD.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't confuse annoyance with drive and understanding.
Yeah, when you're 18 to 21 years old, that's very intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
It's a lot different.
and there were a number of students in the program who went right from the undergrad to the grad, because if you went right from your 4 years you only had to do grad in 1 year. So they were doing it in 1 year. And there were a lot of them who were getting it done in a year. And I was looking around going, this is a mistake, because you have never gone out and worked as a social worker and you're getting a master's in it.
Yeah.
Like, my first master's was not in education. My first master's was in creative writing, because I had just finished an education degree. Why would I go back and get a master's degree in the same stuff?
Right.
Right? So I went and got a master's in creative writing. And everybody was like, if you do that, you can't be a principal. I was like, why do I want to be a principal?
Yeah.
Right. Maybe that's not my goal.
Yeah.
That's not my goal.
Yeah.
Exactly. Being a writer is my goal.
Exactly. All right.
Funny.
So
So
I
to segue back into my life, I'm now starting to channel. I'm going to start channeling a book on intuition.
Perfect.
And
That's awesome.
I'm figuring out the title. I've got options. I'm like, trust your gut, walk in courage, making bold decisions. I'm not really sure which one I'm going to fall on, but yeah.
I like that. That's awesome. I can't wait to read that.
Yeah, I'm writing a book. I'm channeling a book on how to trust your intuition.
That's perfect. And that kind of brings me to let's talk about let's peel the cap on some of the stuff that we talked about. And I know that intuition is something that, well, I'll be honest with you, I actually fight quite a bit. I think I'm one of those closeted intuition people that doesn't want to accept that I am. And most
very much so.
Most of the people that know me personally, and we've gone on, a few different ghost hunts and stuff like that. I shouldn't say it, paranormal investigations.
There you go.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And things like that.
Torment ghosts, you sick man. You are a sick man.
Yeah.
I would never want to torment a ghost.
I would not either, actually. I don't know why I said that, and it's funny because I'm actually the person that would be like, no, it's not ghost hunting. I don't know. Anyway,
I cross them over.
Oh, good.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Well, that's very good.
yeah, when I realize there's a ghost in my space, one, I lock it down real tight. I lock my space down. But when I find a ghost and I bump into it, so here's a story. I was dating a man, and he came into the house, and my intuition was, I looked at him and I said, you need to go visit your mom tonight. And he was like, she's in the hospital. I'm not going over there. I'm like, I'll go over there. It's 9:00 at night. Like, this is before the pandemic. So, there wasn't visiting hours. I'm like, we'll go over and we'll visit with your mom because I think you need to go tonight. And he's like, I'm not going over there. And I was like, fine. And we went to bed. He gets a call at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And he says, what now? And I was like, oh gosh. So, and since I work at the hospital where she was dying, I was like, do you want me to come with you? And he was like, yes. So when we got up to leave, I got up to get dressed to go to work. right? I put on dress,
Okay.
I put on stockings, I put on shoes. Like I dressed up like I was going to go to work that day. And so then I packed up all the makeup, right? It's 3:00 in the morning. I'm not putting makeup on right now. I will
Yeah.
find time before I actually have to be in work to put the makeup on. And so we head over to the hospital, and we got there just after she had passed already. But she's like, in the hospital bed still.
Mm.
So we're all hanging around, and eventually there are a couple of people there who are clearly uncomfortable. And so he says, why don't we go for a walk? So he takes the couple of people who are uncomfortable, and they go to Wawa. And when they head over to Wawa, where are you guys?
We're in Missouri.
Yeah.
You have no idea what a Wawa is.
No.
No. Where are you? Where are you at?
I'm outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
I'm in Bryn Mawr,
okay.
Pennsylvania.
Gotcha. Okay.
So a Wawa is Native American for Canada goose.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And it is one of the best convenience stores you have ever been in. You can go
Okay.
to the little sandwichy thing, and they'll make you a sandwich. They have soup. They have like it. You can go to the touch screen, and they'll like make you a hoagie, whatever the hell you call those long sandwiches.
Okay.
I knew what hoagie meant.
sandwich.
Yeah, I was good with that. And you're about to say submarine. I knew that one too. So
So they'll make you a hoagie. They'll make you whatever pretty much you order. You can get like chicken fingers. You can get like chicken noodle soup, chili, and they'll
Wow.
also make you like a coffee drink. They'll make you
Okay.
Okay.
like the Wawa, and they have great coffee, and they have like morning donuts, and they have it just has everything in a Wawa. So there was a Wawa kind of across the street from the hospital, and so my ex-boyfriend at the time, my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend now, took these couple of people off for a walk. And when he took them for a walk, I'm like, well, he's not here, so I don't have to really stick around. So I went down to my office and made myself some tea and was like hanging out. And I realized she followed me.
Oh.
Really?
Okay.
And I was like, the hair was standing up on the back of my end. And like, I was just really uncomfortable. I kind of turned to the space where she was. And so if anybody walked in, I would be talking to myself. And I was like, you need to go.
Yeah.
It's like, you need to go to the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sure you see it. You had a really good life. I'm sure you see it. You go to the light.
Right.
And so she crossed. And then after she crossed, he and I were breaking up at some point, and she was in my kitchen. And I was like, what are you doing here? And she was in the light then, so she didn't freak me out. She didn't make me uncomfortable.
Right.
She just sort of showed up, and she said, basically, I know what you've been trying to do with him, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate that it's not working. And I appreciate all that you've put in, all the energy you've put into this.
Wow.
And I was like, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
And then at another point, I bumped into her in my bedroom, and I was like, you're not supposed to be in here.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a no-go zone.
Exactly. Don't be in here, please. Please don't be in here.
Yeah, I know. That's like a big fear of mine. Be in the shower and be like, if there is a ghost right now, please, I don't.
I know you
Well,
always think about those
if it's
things.
a ghost, there's going to be an argument. But if it's somebody who's over in the light and they want to come down, they're
True.
actually going to visit you in the shower, because when you're around water and spirit are connected.
Right.
And so when you're doing, so here's a story. I have a family member who didn't get along with another family member, and that family member died. And that family member now argues with the family member who died while they're doing dishes. And so this family member thinks that it's just like a conversation in their head about all the things the dead family member would say, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like all the things the dead family member would say, they're just having this conversation in their head with them. I asked them recently how those conversations when they're doing dishes are going. They're like, I think he's coming around.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
She doesn't realize that, like, no, you're actually talking to his spirit, and the two of you are working it out post-life because you couldn't figure it out in life.
In life.
Wow. Well, she doesn't know it now. Then she knows it now.
If she listens. She's not,
she
I don't think
listens.
she's really into where I'm being podcast recorded.
Ah.
But I have to be really careful, right? Like, there are certain people who have said, don't use my name, don't say
Right.
anything
Right,
about me.
yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
my stuff out there. So
For sure.
this is just some family member, right? Who's having a problem
Some
with
family
a dead
member.
family member. And that's true pretty much in every family.
Yes,
Yeah.
that
Oh,
is
yes, it
very
is.
true.
It is.
Yeah, I know in ours for mine for sure.
Mine
Yeah.
too.
But I wouldn't, yeah, if
Um,
somebody were a ghost, like I've had a ghost in this condo, the woman who used to live here was like attached to this space. And I went away on a silent retreat for like, I think this was a 5-weeker. And when I came back from a 5-week silent retreat, she was in my space.
mm,
And I met her in the hallway, so it was like a small space. And I was like, "What are you doing here?" And she was like, "Well, you left."
Oh,
And I was
so
like,
yeah.
"My shit is
yeah.
still here.
Yeah. Yeah.
If my shit's still here, I'm here." And
My
she was like,
essence is still here.
exactly. And she was like, and I was like, "If I find you on this property again, I am going to ban you from it. Like, you are going to be completely banned from the entire property. I'm like,
Oh
by
man.
Archangel Michael, you have no right to be here." And she was just like, I'm like,
Yeah.
"Go to the freaking light already."
Yeah.
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 And I think she
That's
did.
scary.
She did. And she's actually gets mad every time I tell the story. She's like, "Stop talking about me this way."
She's like, I thought we had a deal here. I
Yeah.
was going to the light,
Like,
you
I
know?
went to the light. Why are you still talking
Yeah.
about it?
Right. Gee. That's
And then
funny.
I'm like, I left the little man on the door knocker on the door. Be happy and just let it go.
That's wild. Yeah, I wouldn't imagine. Now, we've recently, well, I guess you should say you recently, but we've always assumed that our house was haunted, and it is. But as it turns out, I think I'm the one that's the actual haunted person, and it's just it gets to come with me wherever I go. But yeah. Anyway,
You have power over that.
oh, I do, but honestly,
It's not a bad
it's not a
thing.
bad thing. In fact,
It seems to be a good thing.
yeah, they're very nurturing. They're very like I almost feel very comfortable with it, so
Are they
I'm good with it.
guides?
I think so.
I think so. Like, that's my guess,
If
but
you're not getting the
I don't know
creeped
for
out
sure.
feeling, if you don't
No.
get
No.
Mm-mm.
yeah, they're probably your guide. You are tapping. Oh gosh. So I need to give you a lesson that you're just tapping into the people who are helping you live your life, and they're trying to talk to you.
Oh
So
yeah.
the next time they're standing around and you're like, you're in my periphery, I can see you, but I can't see you. Like the next time they're just like hanging out in the back corner, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I
I
do.
know you know what I'm talking about. I can
Mhm.
tell. The next time they're there, just be like, what do I need to know?
That's interesting. Yeah, that's happened to me more than a few times.
Well,
Yeah.
the most of the times when he says that he's seen something or felt something is when we've been going through a rough patch in our lives for something, whether it be health or whatever was going on. That's when they would appear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why that was a big guess. I was like, I think that's what it is.
What do you need? What do I need to know? And it might just be we're just trying to tell you it's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay.
for sure. Yeah, now I didn't have the Hodgkin's lymphoma, but I had thyroid cancer. So they had to take that out, and I got to do the whole, radioactive iodine and all that fun stuff, which it's always a load of fun for anybody who gets to do
No good.
that.
It's no good.
Yeah. And then a few years ago, I had a brain bleed. And each time that when those two things happened, there was a lot of activity going on.
Yes, there was.
So,
Yeah, I think those
that's
are your guides just being like, we're trying to heal you, buddy.
Yep, which I'm good with. I'm good with all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us, Reiki. Here's the thing. Here's
Tell
where
us, Ricky.
I'm going to sound like the biggest jackass known to man because I just don't know it.
Yeah.
Don't
But
know anything about it.
But I desperately do want to know what is Reiki? What is I see that a lot, and I'm clueless. And I'm sure if I'm clueless, a good portion of our audience is clueless too. Sorry,
Okay.
guys.
So every Reiki person who does Reiki has a lineage. Most of them come from Ushui, Usui, I believe.
Okay.
Could be wrong. I had to actually look it up because I was like, crap, who's the guy who started it? And he was out in the woods of Japan, was hanging out in the woods of Japan, and he got a download of a bunch of symbols. And when he applied those symbols to himself and to others, it caused energetic healing. And so he passed the training down in very strict, structured ways. People received it, and so the lineage is considered a sort of a sacred thing. When you get your certificate, the lineage is on it. When I applied, so when I applied to do Reiki at Penn Medicine, they didn't accept me. They didn't like me because I was too social worky. They wanted me more Reiki than social
Okay.
worky, right? Like
That's interesting.
Mhm.
I was not the person they were looking for, basically. And my personality was too big. And so when I failed at Penn Medicine to give Reiki, they wanted, before I was applying, they wanted to know what my lineage was. It's like this really big deal.
Okay.
Because it gets handed down.
Okay.
And the symbols get like put into your aura, basically. They
Okay.
like do something funky where they open your aura, and is very uncomfortable feeling, by the way. When somebody opens your aura, it is uncomfortable.
It
And
sounds awful.
Like popping your bubble.
yeah, like
opening
they just
your
like,
bubble.
they literally like put their hands right here and separate the energy around the top of your
Wow.
head and pull it away to put the symbols down into your head.
Jeez.
And the last time, because I recently had a tune-up, like you can go and like I went and met up and had a refresher on the course and the whole thing, because I had it like around the pandemic, and then I just stopped using it, and I was like, you know what, it's been a little while, I'll go get refreshed. And so the instructor, like, she started to try to, and I laughed, and I was like, they're telling me it's going to be challenging. And she laughed too, and she said, yeah, they already told me that I'm going to have to use force to open your aura. They're like, you're not going to let me in easily. And so the symbols kind of get put in you, and then they kind of hang around in there. And actually, those symbols help to open your intuition. So one of my intuition instructors said that her intuition just lit up. Her third eye just went bam, and she was able to see so much after she received even her first Reiki attunement. And so Reiki is basically the movement of energy.
Okay.
By placing hands on specific body parts, and then you just like move down the body, paying attention to the chakras as you move down. Obviously, there are places that you don't touch that are like, more private than others, but your root chakra hangs out in a very private location.
Yes.
I think opening more than an aura.
Way more uncomfortable than opening an aura.
Right.
So like when you get to the root, you're actually at the feet.
Interesting.
You'll handle the root by like being near the knees and then the feet, and then you pull. So you start at the head and you move your way down the body, and then you give the symbols as you feel they need them. One of them is a distance symbol, so you can give Reiki via distance. So the getting in trouble at Penn, this is actually a very funny story. So like he told me we ask permission. So I asked if she wanted a blanket. That was great. I was fine. So he said, can I give you Reiki? And she said, yes, I have a friend who's been offering, but I keep saying no. And I was like, okay, you have a friend, and Reiki is incredibly intimate. Like, we're putting our hands on your freaking body. Like, that is super intimate.
Yep.
And so it's like, you're saying no to your friend, but you're saying yes to us? I'm like, I'm kind of confused. And she laughed, and she goes, my friend is distance. And so I would be getting distance Reiki. And that just feels, and she paused, this really long pause. And I laughed and I go, it just feels too woo-woo. And she was like, yes, it feels too woo-woo. And then we had like a really good laugh about it. And I was like, what's really great about this is you get to experience Reiki with us, and you get to experience what happens. And then you could conceivably say yes to your friend and then compare the experiences and be like, what does that feel like now that I've had Reiki in person and then Reiki distance? Is there really a difference? And you can like be all scientific about it and compare your experiences.
That's a good idea.
And then I got in trouble because it wasn't a permission question. He was like, why is not a permission question? Like, you're only allowed to ask permission questions. Can I touch you? Can we do Reiki? Can we blah, blah, blah? Like, give permission. And why is not a permission question? Out you go. And I was like, okay, out I go.
That's pretty structured.
Yeah, it's pretty strict.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's wild. I would have never thought that, I mean, okay.
Honestly, I wouldn't have either.
Well, I mean, I know it's a discipline. Well, just to know it was that structured, that it was.
Yeah, very disciplined.
Right.
Very disciplined. Well, the training, so their training, a lot of their training is like there was a Reiki school and you had to like do so many hours at level 1 before they let you to move to level 2. You need to do
Okay.
so many hours before you move to level 3. And my training was more like, hey, come have a Saturday. Ooh, come
Yeah.
have another Saturday. Right. And so
Yeah.
my training
Okay.
was real loose and like, which is fine. I'm fine with the training I have, and I use it, and I like when I feel like I need some power up myself, I'll like use the symbols, and I will if I feel like I'm being told that somebody like one of my so here's the other thing. Traditional Reiki would say you can't give Reiki to somebody who doesn't give permission, which is the
Okay.
same thing I do with a intuitive reading. I don't give people intuitive readings unless they give me permission to give an intuitive reading. Like,
Sure.
Right.
I'm not going to go read your mail without you saying so.
Well,
Yeah.
it's incredibly intimate, you know. I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But I will confess that people have told me in the past that I'm allowed to give them Reiki, so I just like use that when I think that they're particularly struggling. I'm like, oh, I think you're struggling. I'm just going to send you some Reiki because I can.
Yeah.
And so I take the green light from the past and use it in the future. And
Sure.
even if they haven't given me a green light, in all honesty, it's like one of my instructors, she calls it like a Reiki rain cloud. Not like a negative one. It's not like Pigpen, right? Where he's got the
Yeah.
dust bubble that
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like follows him around,
I just
right?
want to dance the
Or everything is always like raining over Linus. It's just raining over
Yeah.
Charlie Brown,
Right, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just raining over Charlie Brown, right?
Yeah.
Like, so the rain cloud is a happy hearts and like rainbows and like stars and like happy little feelings that are in this rain cloud that I think like follow down on them when they're ready to receive it.
Okay.
And if they're not ready to receive it, it's in their backpack if they should ever need it.
Okay.
Right? Like if they
Yeah,
don't
that
want
makes
it,
sense.
it doesn't hurt them at all to have it. And if they're willing to receive it, it will make them maybe feel a little better.
Okay.
Like a first aid kit. It's
Yeah.
there if you need it. Yeah.
And so
If I cut myself and I decide to open it, it's there.
so I'm going to be wow, I can't believe they're giving okay, I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys.
Okay.
So I went to a Reikiist a couple of times. She was in my area in Phoenixville. She was absolutely amazing. And I needed my energy shifted. And this is about the time I think the person I was talking about who passed, that was a family member, very significant to me.
Mhm.
I think this was before I knew how sick he was. So this was like, I think I had just broken up with the boyfriend, but maybe he didn't leave for like a month and a half after we broke up because he had like, nowhere else to go. So like that's
That's not
awkward.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yes.
Jeez.
Uncomfortable and awkward. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was still here. I needed to shift my energy. I needed a shift. And so I went to her a couple of times. And at one point she sat me down and she said, here's this book. And it's called Ask and It Is, oh no, it was, at that point it was The Law of Attraction. And she had me read the book and she said, whenever I'm feeling kind of blue or not quite right, she said, I live in Esther Hicks library. Right? The
Okay.
YouTube videos of Esther Hicks. If you don't know
Right.
what that is, I said Google that. Google
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Google
Okay.
that shit. Just go Google it, and it's a
I've been
rabbit
down
hole.
some YouTube holes, so I feel like I've
Yes,
It's a
you can
yeah.
it's a YouTube hole that you will fall into.
I've been down
It's like
few.
video after video after video, and actually after my I'll just say the family member was my father, and after my father died, the video after he died that I bumped into was what happens after you die and why do you have to die? Because
Wow.
Esther was married to a Jerry and a Jerry died. So why did Jerry die? And so Abraham, who is a channeled entity, gave answers to that question, which brought in so much peace for me about Dad's death that I was like, this is not a coincidence that I found this right after his death.
Right.
Yeah.
And so before his death, in about August or so, I started to do a lot of work with the book Ask and It Is Given and The Law of Attraction. And I started to apply it very seriously. And I started to do, and I'm going to be honest, it was work. It's not to manifest. People are like, I manifested. I'm like, no. You don't, it doesn't come in that easily. Like you
Right,
actually have to do a couple of key things to build up your vibration, to create the atmosphere, and to get yourself into the right space.
Yeah.
And Esther, in her talks, you'll hear her if you watch her, she'll say it takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes in the vortex. It takes 30 seconds to get in the vortex, and then you need to be in there for 5 minutes. And the vortex is basically samadhi, if you've heard that term before.
Yes, I have heard that before.
I have, yes.
Yeah, it's the no place. It's the
Yes.
space between, right? When you're in
Right.
meditation and you hit the sweet spot, right? Yeah. She basically says if you can spend 5 minutes there, and then when you're there, you bring in everything you want to bring in your life. So while
Okay.
you're in the vortex, you call in everything you want, but then you don't hold it. You just let it be there, and you don't get attached to it. You just let it sit there, and then this is how you manifest. And then you get up and move about your day and try to keep your vibration on the same vibration of the things you're trying to bring in.
Okay.
So I was like, I want $1 million. Like, that'd be
I hear
really
you.
cool.
Right.
It'll
Yep.
solve all my
Yeah.
problems. Actually, $1 million doesn't solve all your problems, but
No.
it'll
No, it
solve all my
doesn't.
problems. I'm like, it'll
No.
solve all the problems.
Just put me in a
So-
new tax bracket.
So I sat down on the meditation cushion and I did all the things, right? I went to New Hope. I went shopping. I like had a day of it. I like pretend I have seed $100 bill in my wallet just to have it, because that's one of the things, like, I can spend this and I can get that purse and I can spend this. You never spend it. You're like, but I could get that purse and ooh, doesn't that feel good? And ooh, I can buy that ring. Ooh, doesn't that feel good? And I can go buy that. Doesn't that feel good? Ooh. And then I used an old checkbook and I was like writing out checks, these blank checks. Like, I kept a ledger of every day $1,000 got put in the bank account. And then one day I'm like, why am I only putting $1,000 in this bank account? Why did I end up putting $10,000 in this bank account? I went and bought a house on the beach. I paid off all my dad's medical bills. Like, I paid for my dad to have a cook. Like, I was like, I can pay for anything. And so, like, I was like, obviously these things weren't showing up at that moment, but I was like, I'm manifesting $1 million.
Sure.
And there was one day I was in the meditation cushion and it was like, what does $1 million feel like? And I was like, $1 million feels like open. It feels like possibility.
Mhm.
It feels like hope. It feels like joy. It feels like freedom. It feels like excitement. It feels like possibility. It feels like a big open field,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I had the thought, well, my dad can't die for me to get the $1 million.
Right.
Right.
And then it all shut down. Walls.
Yep.
I lost the open space. It felt closed in. It felt tight. It felt uncomfortable. And I was like, okay, this is what release and allow is. I was like, it's going to come to me however it's going to come to me. And I opened it back up again. And I was like, whatever happens, happens. I have no control over my life. I have no control over anybody else's life. I'm just manifesting $1 million and I know how good that feels. And I'm not going to put parameters on it. The world is what the world is. And it's going to come to me however it's going to come to me. Dad died.
That makes good sense.
And I inherited $1 million.
Wow.
And so, do I want my dad back? Yes. Would I take my
Of
dad back in a
course.
second? Of course. Would I give the money
Yeah.
back to get my dad back? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
However, Dad went at like 2 months before the pandemic. Well, he died in November before the pandemic. And I was like living in his hospital rooms and I was living in his like rehab skilled nursing space days. I was like living, like I was there every day, even though he lived
Right.
really far away. And I
Mhm.
couldn't have kept that up. They didn't
No.
allow visitors at all. He would have
Right.
been like trapped in
Right.
those places by
What, like
himself.
18 months, I think, before anybody even got a chance to go back in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he took off before that became a problem.
Mhm.
And so there
Same
were two
thing.
other things that happened financially that were like boons that he left when he left. But
Yeah.
that was the big one, that he left before the pandemic and I didn't have to navigate a pandemic with my dad because he
Mhm.
was just so sick. I mean, honestly, he would have looked at the COVID. He might have even died of COVID. Like
Yeah.
he looked at the COVID virus. I mean, he would have looked at it and it would have taken him out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so he missed it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I did all the work. I did the work. So after I did the work, I was like, you know what? 1 million is just a number, right? Because if before I was putting $1,000 in the bank ledger, right,
Right.
the fake
Yeah.
bank ledger, which is just a notebook, right, which is right over there, right? Like if I'm putting $1,000 in it, who's to say I can't do that? I'm like, what's a happy number? I'm like 20. I'm like, that's not happy. It's 21. Nope, that's not the happy number. 22? Nope, not the happy number. 23. Ooh, 23 feels friendly. 24?
Yeah.
Nope, not 24. Not 25. 23. 23 feels really friendly. And I was like, okay, so we'll manifest 23 million. I'm like, I'm at 23 million. So now I have to raise my vibration up to what does 23 million feel like? And let me tell you, that takes a long time.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it does.
And so 1 million's easy because it's just the number one. Ooh, one, right? But when you get 23 in there, your brain starts to really fuck with the number.
Yeah,
It does. Yeah.
And so this is where I am. I'm working on now building up to 23,
Okay.
and I'm nowhere close. I have nowhere close, and that's fine, right? Because
Right.
it is what
It's
it
the
is.
intent.
Yeah, it's something to work toward.
Right.
Yeah, and the work is actually like sitting on a meditation cushion
Mhm.
Right.
and
Yeah.
creating wide open space
Yeah.
and just feeling good.
That makes perfect sense.
That's the work.
Mhm.
And cleaning out the fear and the resistance when it shows up. So that means facing your dragons of resistance.
Yeah. So all the no's, you can't do this
Mhm.
stuff that constantly come into play.
Or just even, it might not even have a no. It might just be a wall. It just might feel
Right.
like a wall. And I'm like, I don't know what
Yeah.
that wall is built of. So I need
Opposition.
the super conscious to come in and take down that wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wild. So yeah, there's so much to unpack with that. Yeah, it's not often people keep me at a loss for words. So consider yourself.
is true.
You're in rarefied air here.
So again,
Quiet
I'm
one. He's a
Kimbeam
talker.
at kimbeam.com. If you're like, who the hell is that girl that made
Yeah,
me
right.
speechless?
Yeah,
that's me.
that's pretty wild. So intuition.
Yeah.
And I know that there's so many different things under that umbrella and different ways that kind of impacts. You mentioned that you have classes and stuff like that tailor to that.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that, like for myself, I know that I have certain things that I'm dealing with when it comes to that. But people in our audience that may think they've got it or kind of have a possibility of it or question it, what are some of the things that maybe they can kind of spot and suss out that says, hey, you know what? There may be some other stuff going on here. What would be good for them?
So one of the things that you know that you're not walking in your intuition is you don't have peace. And don't have peace has some very significant symptoms. And when I say you don't have peace or you're not walking in your intuition, your head and your heart are arguing with each other.
Yep.
Okay.
I know that. I know that feeling.
Me
right?
too.
Your head and your heart are arguing with each other. And when your head and your heart are arguing with each other, it's sort of like there's a little bit of a war going on inside your body. And you're not necessarily sleeping. Right? Sleeping is one of the things that will go. The other thing is silence is super uncomfortable. So if you're constantly have noise on, right? If you're constantly playing music and you're playing it loud enough that you can't think, right? If you're walking around and the TV is always on, you need the TV on just for background noise. There is something you are not dealing with, and the guides are trying to get you to deal with it, and you are actively ignoring them. If you are always on the go, the inability to just sit and be in a room and do nothing, like just sit on a couch and just like stare at a wall for 15 minutes, if that is something you cannot do, there is something that is like trying to chase you down and get there, and you are running away with everything you have. The other thing is, we all have done it. I had an intuition instructor once who said, you know you have intuition because you always know what grocery line to get in. And I was like, shit.
Yeah.
I don't have intuition because I always get in the wrong fucking line.
That's traffic for me
It is.
constantly.
Well, it's just like traffic.
Yeah.
Like you move lines at the grocery store and then it fills up.
Again,
You get behind the person that's is so slow or something
Oh,
doesn't check, and then
well, Logan, if you can't stand still, standing in a grocery line is going to be torture for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and
right?
I'm always the one that gets stuck behind. It never fails. Like I rarely go to the bank. Rare. It's always Nicole that does it. But if I ever do it, I'm always the one that gets stuck behind somebody applying for a fucking loan. Like I'm in the car going, what are we doing here? Are you refinancing your house? Can I just get my $20 and get the hell out of here? You know?
So I'm going to posit this idea, which may piss you off. And I'm really sorry, Logan. I'm
It's
really
all
sorry.
good. It's okay.
The universe may be fucking with you on purpose
That I believe.
because they're trying to get you to slow down and they're trying to get you to notice.
Yeah.
And so when you're standing in the bank and you're behind the person who's applying for a loan, right? Or
Yep.
or they're refinancing their mortgage.
Yeah, through the ATM and a drive-through.
I would say throw your car in park. Turn off the radio.
Okay.
If it's the middle of the summer and you're comfortable, go ahead and roll down your windows. Get some wind, get some air in, and just go, what do I need to do with this time? The first response. So I have a teacher, Heather Alice Shea. She says that science has proven that they can now study your energies field. It's widest at your heart, and it comes up. So it's widest at your heart. So it comes in through your heart first. It goes up to your head and down to your gut. The energy field is sort of shaped like a donut. It kind of comes up like this, and it goes like that at your feet too. So it's kind of this big round thing, right? And it goes widest at your heart space. Energy comes in through your heart, goes up to your head, down to your gut. That takes 3 seconds. Takes 3 seconds. The ego and the subconscious fight it because the ego is all about me, and the subconscious is all about keeping you safe. So it wants to do its old patterns over and over again, and Joe Dispenza calls that an automatic response, a subconscious automatic response, where it just wants to keep you safe. And so when you get out of your patterns, your subconscious gets pissed off and starts to argue, and your body does too. Because your body likes to run the show. Your body just likes to make everything happen. Which is like when you hit a detour and you have to go a new way and you're irate for no reason. It's your body going, we don't go this way. This is not how we go. I have to think now. Right?
Yeah.
And so when you quiet everything down and you get that and you ask that question, what do I need to know? The answer is what you have to go with, because your ego is going to start arguing with you. Your subconscious is going to start arguing with you, and you are going to wind up with a battle inside your head.
Yeah.
But the first thing that comes in is your intuition giving you truth.
That's pretty damn profound. Because
I've actually heard that before, but he needs someone else to tell him this.
I know. Well, and
The wife, it never works.
I'm sorry, I'm getting all the credit for things you've already said.
It happens with everything, so don't worry. Oh, it's so true.
No, but
The last one you listen to is the wife.
well, that's not necessarily true. But what's funny is I have ringing in my ears, so I always have to have something on. But I think I probably had that a long time
You
ago.
had that way before the ringing
Yeah.
ever started. So,
Yeah.
yes.
I've got to have something on, and I constantly need some sort of noise. But yeah. Yeah, so
She just checked you.
yeah.
So I didn't mean to read your mail, but it happens without me meaning to. It's
Well,
like
that's
one of
okay.
if you talk to Kim Beam, she's gonna like unintentionally read your mail.
And I'm okay with that because I'm pretty much an open book anyway. Most of our audience knows that I share pretty much more things than I probably should. But
Yep.
Well, we already found out about your bowels today, so there's
I
that.
know. Well, I mean, we almost opened up more in my aura, and there was all kinds of other stuff going on. But I mean, I'm glad it's not painful because
Well, it's not painful.
No.
It's just a little uncomfortable. It's just
Yeah,
a little uncomfortable
yeah.
to poof, poof, and then you put the symbols in. Like you like draw the symbol in, and then you like it down in.
Right.
Wow.
So our audience is probably going to want to know a whole bunch of different things, but What are yeah, I know I can already sense people especially like my mom be like, "Well, you need to ask her this." Um
You can always have me back. I'll be
oh, and
happy.
trust me, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen.
And I'll be
Uh
happy to come back and like be like, oh, let me answer your mom. And if your mom, like, okay, so let me also say, I give intuitive readings on my podcast. I have
okay.
a podcast called Intuitive Insights, and you can go on my website, kimbeam.com, fill out the form, and like tap the form that you want to be on the podcast, fill out the form, and we'll get you on the podcast, and I'll give you a free 15-minute reading
Nice.
Great.
on my podcast.
Very cool.
That's great for everyone to know. Yeah.
So before, because I kind of want to make sure that we cover everything as far as like the classes and everything. But what what is the biggest misconception? I ask this a lot of different people, and it's because,
But it's true.
but
Because
it's
everybody,
true. Yeah, because everybody goes,
skeptical.
well, there's Reiki, or there's especially those who have never been exposed to the non-linear thinking and the non-linear lifestyle, and if they're listening or watching the show, they've obviously are understanding there's a lot more to it. But what are some of the things that I guess you could give them as far as like hey, these are some misconceptions that you probably want to avoid?
One of my teachers, the one I mentioned earlier, she would say there's no such thing as a friendly ghost. That if you have a ghost in your house and you know there's a ghost in your house, you are going to do something at some point to piss it off, and it's going to break your furnace. So you really don't want to live with it. You need to get that thing out of there. It's not friendly, and it is not going to be helpful because it's there for whatever purpose it's there for, and then it's going to wreak havoc at some point when you do something inadvertently, like you decide to redo the kitchen.
Hmm.
And so there's no such thing as a friendly ghost.
Interesting.
And I went on a ghost tour in Virginia, which afterwards I was like, that was a really dumb thing to do. And I kind of apologized to the universe where I'm like, I'm really sorry I went on that ghost tour. Like, but the person who was leading the ghost tour was like, please do not step on any of the grass, stay in the paths. They were like, the paths are public property, and like you're safe on there, but please don't step on the grass, because that's when you start invading their space. And there's like the most haunted building is in Williamsburg, and they told a story about a security guard in the basement who, like, I don't know if you've heard this story, but he like was doing his rounds, and then he came out, he got locked in the basement, they wouldn't let him out of the basement, and then he came out and he threw up in the garbage can and immediately said, I am never doing this job again. And so it's the first building they lock up at night. They always do it when it's light out. So the hours at which that building is open shifts as the time change happens. And it's the first building that gets locked at night, and nobody goes in there alone anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually know this. I was stationed at Virginia Beach for a long time, so I've been to Williamsburg a few times before we met, and I actually know about that. It's weird because I've actually heard that before.
Yeah,
that's wild.
So there's no such thing as a friendly ghost. That's the first thing I would say. The other thing I would say is that I think I said it before in this podcast, and that is empathy is the first step to intuition. It's dipping your toes in the intuition water. And the thing is, there are certain things that are becoming more acceptable and more mainstream. Reiki is now being given in hospitals. So like Reiki is a thing that's like, people recognize that it has a medical effect, that it helps to calm patients down, that it increases sleep, that it does a bunch of positive things. And as a result, and they've done like double-blind studies, blah, blah, blah. And so Reiki is now something that is getting into mainstream medicine.
Wow, that's fantastic
that's
to hear.
awesome.
I, as a Hodgkin's lymphoma, when I was doing Hodgkin's lymphoma, as I was in treatment, right? As I was in treatment, my mom paid for a Reikiist, and we called it voodoo. We're like, get that voodoo lady in here. And at first we were like, I don't know. And then after my first visit with her, my weeks when she came the day after chemo. The weeks that she came were a better recovery week from chemo than the weeks that she didn't come. And I can tell you that for a fact because I lived it.
Right.
right? She also knew immediately my leg started to get neuropathy. And when the neuropathy started, she spent her whole hour just paying attention to the tingling weirdness that was happening in my leg. And she knew it just energetically that my leg was flipping the fuck out.
Wow. That's wild.
It is wild. So Reiki is a thing. Like Reiki is for real. It is mainstream, and empathy is becoming much more expected because the term read the room is now something people are expected to do. You're now expected to read the room. It is something managers are expected to do, supervisors are expected to do it, people who are stand-up comedians are expected to do it. Everybody is expected to read the room.
Yep.
And the only way you read the room is being able to read other people's energy and read people's emotions. And the only way to do that is empathy. And that is your beginning of intuition. And so if you're going to open the door to intuition, start with empathy. And then this is the freebie. And then use your learning style. So if you're a visual learner, start looking for images inside your head, start looking for movie stuff that flies through your head, start looking for like your mind's eye kind of imagination, like when you're reading a book kind of stuff.
Okay.
If you're an auditory learner, now when I first started with my intuition stuff, I was desperate because at the time I was a Christian. I'm not a Christian now, but like at the time I was a Christian. So I was desperate to hear God. And so I wasn't walking. I'm visual and I'm kinesthetic. I'm extremely kinesthetic.
Sure.
But I was tapping into a learning style that is not mine, and I was trying to hear. And so I was all messed up about what voice is mine, what voice is not mine, what voice is intuition voice, what voice is not intuition voice. I'm getting much better at it. Thank you for your help. But like, yeah, so I was looking for the voices, and I would listen to anything because I didn't know what any of them were. And so for my auditory learners, you're going to have to learn what your ego sounds like, what your subconscious sounds like, and what your body sounds like. And then you're going to have to learn what your highest self sounds like. So the learning process for an auditory learner is a little bit more intense. Yeah. And then for my kinesthetics, there's two things that kinesthetics do, and both of them are terrifying. One of them is you just know that you know that you know. And you don't know how you know, you just know. You're like, there's a tornado coming. Well, how do you know? I just do.
Just know.
And then you're right or you're wrong, right? Like you just know, right? And then the other one is, I think of it like a tissue box. This is another one of my instructors. I've had a lot of instructors in my life. One of my instructors said, intuition's like a tissue box. You get a word, you get what you're getting, and you pull the tissue out and you give it. And then another tissue pops up. So long as the box isn't empty, right? Imagine you have a full tissue box. And so you just keep giving tissues until the tissues stop. You just open your mouth and give what you're getting, which is extremely hard because you're going to open your mouth and you have no idea what the hell you're going to say. Right? So this
and it'd be really hard to it'd be really hard not to put your own narrative and stuff like that too. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, yeah. So how do you do it? You do it carefully. But kinesthetics, I don't know who has it worse. The audio learners who are like, I'm hearing a song lyric in my head. Does that mean something? Right?
I think the kinesthetics.
What'd you say?
I think kinesthetics.
And then kinesthetics, you just either know that you know that you know, or you just have to open your mouth and give it. And if you don't open your mouth and give it, you're not going to get anything else. And
that is something that I constantly struggle with. It is. I am a kinesthetic 100%. I mean, I'm probably as textbooked as it comes. How many times have you asked me, well, how the hell do you know that? I'm like, I have no freaking clue, but I know that's what's going to happen.
And that's what happens.
And that's what happens.
Yeah.
You just know that you know that you know.
I just know that I know that I know.
Yep.
And then there have been many times where I've been like, you need to hear this, but because either I don't want to offend or hurt somebody's feelings or do these things or scare somebody or whatever narrative you want to put in that, I don't say the thing I want to say. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, shit, I knew that. If I would have just told you, I could have saved you a whole bunch of X. You know what I mean?
Yes. So, and that's just it. The woman who says that a ghost, there's no such thing as a friendly ghost, is a woman who also says that following your intuition will save you time and money and like heartache and expense and like all the things, because you'll be like, oh, we're not taking that car today because I think the carburetor might blow, if it even has a carburetor anymore, right? But like,
Yeah.
we're not taking that car today. We're going to take the other car. Because you just know that you know. And then you're like, why? I have no idea. I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
All
you
the
do.
freaking time.
And that is your intuition.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You are walking in intuition.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a learning process for me, even at 50. It is a learning process.
Well, you resist. You've
do.
resisted for a long time.
I am a resistor.
You big resistor. I don't like to say resistor. I say I get resisty. I'm resisting.
I get resisty.
It sounds
yes.
cute. It sounds cuter that way. I'm just resisty about this.
I'm resisty about it. I like that. I'm gonna adopt that.
I had somebody once who was like, I was like, I know what to do with my resisty. I don't know what to do with your resisty because I don't know how you handle resisty. And his response was, resisty's not a word.
One of those.
Wah, wah. Awesome. Well, Kim, listen, I want to make sure our audience kind of gets everything that they need to know how to find you. I know you talked about your website, and I know that we talked about your podcast, but also the classes that are coming up, I believe September 1st, if I remember right. Which
I have the Transformational Abundance course starts September 1st. It's going to be a live teaching every week and then also a live meditation every week, so that I'll help you integrate the teaching into a meditation to help you like take the teaching in a little bit deeper instead of like having your brain really work it out, like allow your subconscious to just chill out, and like I'll walk you through how to accept whatever it was in the teaching so that I can clear out some of that stuff with you. There will be a daily like video that I send out that'll be like 2 to 5 minutes about things like, right? And then you can text me back questions about whatever that video is. And then there's a journal that goes along with it. And the journal is like you wrestling with the topics that have been brought up in the teaching.
That's great.
sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, folks, reach out to Kim. You know, let's get her set up, and let's get everything fun and enjoyable and have a good time, and
Yeah.
you know,
Party.
have a party.
Have a
But
party.
again, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
It was a
thank you.
blast. We definitely would like to have you back if you're ever open to it. And
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you want to, you know, bring your mom on, bring in your mom's question.
you don't want that. I don't think my mom wants that either, to be honest with you. But
No, she would.
I'm just gonna spitball when I say this, right? I'm just gonna spitball when I say this, and that is, remember, I have a Christian background.
that's true.
So like when people come at me with certain things, I've read the Bible 3 times. Like
Yeah.
I know what's in it.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's that I'd be concerned about. My mom she missed her calling. She knows how to ask questions like nobody you ever will know. I mean, it's just, she is,
This sounds like a challenge.
oh, she's great. Yeah. But she knows how to ask questions. That's for sure. I told her
Yeah.
she needed to be like an FBI agent. But anyway, Kim, thank you again so much. And we look forward to having you back on.
I would love to be back on. Let me know when.
Okay.
great.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Yes.
That was fun.
It was fun. She's got a great energy.
Yeah, she really does. And for those of you who don't know this, because you wouldn't, but we spoke for a very long time after that. She was let's just say she'll be back. There was a lot of, there was a good connection there. So we're real excited. But so what you think?
She's very, I don't know, well, I don't want to say intuitive because she is intuitive.
Well, there
but
you go.
I like how she explains
Yeah,
using your intuition.
absolutely.
Because we all have it.
Mhm.
Those moments where you just know something's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the Reiki stuff is different than I thought it was. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Well, for sure, because I had no idea.
Well, I didn't really have an idea either, but like, especially how they get trained.
Yeah.
So
I
that
didn't
was
know that.
different for me. And I knew it had to do with energy healing. Like I knew that part, but I didn't know how they did it.
Right. Yeah, I would imagine that I mean, you're really, especially if it's kind of a medical thing now, you have to get certified
Yeah.
in it. So
That actually surprised me quite a bit because they won't let anything in.
No, they
That's
don't.
not like scientifically backed.
I know.
You usually have to go to a naturopath or something like
Mhm.
that to get stuff like that, or
For sure.
separate
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to.
separate institutions.
Yeah,
Let's
it's not
say
like-
it that way.
It's not like
to
that's
get-
thrown up on your HMO. You know, I mean,
Well, they usually won't cover. I mean,
That's
insurance
true.
will not cover these alternative
should
methods of
ask.
healing.
yeah, that's interesting.
Well, if they have it in a hospital, it's pretty much got to, I would think.
You'd think. I don't know. But I wonder what you guys think. Oh, also, by the way, if my voice sounds very different, it is. I'm just getting over the C word. I guess that sounds bad because I could mean other things. I just got through with COVID. Okay. I mean, I know that, the YouTube algorithm hates that, but no, I'm getting over it. So if I sound weird, it's because I'm weird. But anyway, guys, we had a great time. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.